Okay, over to you, Tom.
Thank you, everybody, for coming along. This session is being recorded, and we will be just letting people in as they join the session now. But now is the time to get started. So today we are going to be looking at anxiety, and it's how it's made you feel. We're going to be focusing on something very excited that we've been working on, but I'm not going to spoil anything. So I'm just going to hand it straight over to Lianne because, yeah, she's the best person to get this session going.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday evening. So this workshop has really come about and evolved through our work through beam therapy. So some of you will know us through our sister company, Beam Training. So one business does corporate and wellbeing training workshops, and I know that I've trained quite a few of you on this call, so you'll know that. And then one business actually offers one-to-one therapy and coaching. And I've been running both of those for about 13 years. Tom's been on board almost 6 years, actually, 6 years and a few months as well. And during my time in Beam Therapy, we have helped all sorts of people. So we work in about 45 countries, so online and in person if people come to Cardiff. And we help people through things like grief, confidence, relationship challenges, emotional eating, all sorts of things. But there is definitely been one common theme throughout all of the clients that I work with, and that is that almost without exception, there is an element of anxiety. So it's a real passion project for me whenever I am working with people with anxiety. It's also something I've experienced countless times throughout my life. I struggle, and I only realized a few years ago, which is ridiculous, really, but I struggle with something called pre-period anxiety. So I knew that every month around, there were a few days where I felt super anxious and I couldn't seem to get myself out of it. All of my normal tools and techniques weren't that effective. And yeah, it was probably about 5 years ago, I recognized, hang on a minute, there's a cycle to this anxiety. And that cycle was that it was always about 3 days before my period started. A little bit slow to kind of catch up on that. It took me a while. But actually, experiencing that was a huge thing. I've also experienced panic attacks in the past when I was going through grief and bereavement. So I know it's no joke. I know it's all consuming. I know it's really difficult. So it's a real passion project. So this session this evening really is to very importantly give you some tools that you can walk away with, and introduce you to, I guess, the beam therapy approach to dealing with anxiety, so you can kind of see how that can work for you. So we're going to get a better understanding of anxiety, what it is, why we have it, is there any benefit to having it? I'm going to talk about our approach, and then I'm going to introduce you to something that we call the ARC protocol, which is the way in which we are very passionately dealing with anxiety through behavioral and psychological changes. And then I will give a live demo. So by the end of this session, I'm going to share with you a tool that I know is a game changer. And it's just a tool you can use pretty much anytime, anywhere. If you're feeling anxious right now, if you're feeling anxious because you've got the Sunday night feeling ready for work tomorrow, this tool will absolutely help you. And once I've taught it to you, you'll remember it. It's nice and easy. So what is anxiety? Well, just like every other emotion we experience, anxiety is a very normal human emotion. Anxiety is there to prepare our brain that potentially there is something in our horizon that could be a risk to us. Now, the problem we have with our brain is our brain will believe whatever we think. So it will believe there's a potential risk on the horizon, whether there actually is, whether we've misread signals and we think there is, or whether we've just completely imagined it. And so the experience of anxiety is incredibly normal. All of us will have had that feeling of being anxious about going for a job interview, or anxious about going on a first date, or speaking up in a room full of people. But actually, that anxiety is what I would call normal, healthy anxiety. Because once you've gone through that slightly scary experience, what should happen is that our anxiety then starts to decrease. We take a big breath and we think, okay, everything's okay. Now, for some of us, that is not our experience with anxiety. For some of us, our anxiety is more chronic, more pervasive, and more problematic. And it's different for everyone. And this is one of the challenges we have when working in mental health, is it's very subjective. My experience of anxiety might not be anything like yours, but that doesn't mean either has less worth. But what we would look for when we were dealing with anxiety in terms of seeing it as something problematic is, has it gone on for a long time? So is it chronic? Is it interfering with your relationships, your ability to work, your ability to enjoy things? And is there no identifiable source for that anxiety? And as someone who's struggled with anxiety at different times in my life, one of the things I know is that when I've gone through bad stages of anxiety, I can just wake up first thing in the morning and I feel it. And I know logically there's no reason for it. Nothing bad is due to happen that day, nothing out of the norm. But that feeling just presses on my chest and I can feel it. Now, you might be wondering whether it's yourself, whether it's people you know. Why does everyone seem to be anxious nowadays? It certainly does seem to be much more problematic. Is that because we're just talking about it more, or is it actually more on the rise? Well, the reality is it is more problematic. There's quite a lot of research out there that has said that there is a notable increase in anxiety globally, especially over the last few years. And there's a few key reasons for that. One, probably not that surprising, is just our addiction to digital technology and social media. We're not really ever switching off. That increase in our connection to always being on alert, to waiting for the beep or the buzz of the phone or the iPad or the computer, or sometimes in my working day, all three of those things at the same time, causes us to always be on edge, waiting for the next buzz, waiting for the next message. There's a great book by someone called Jonathan Haidt, who brought out a book last year called The Anxious Generation. And he argues that this is one of the key things influencing our young people in terms of their anxiety. He calls it a shift to phone-based childhood. So they're having reduced in-person interaction and greater online engagement. And that's disrupted social development and contributed to all sorts of mental health issues. We also, believe it or not, are still reeling from the pandemic. And again, this is something I certainly see in anyone under 25. But actually, all of us were forever changed by the pandemic. We were all changed by this unheard of situation that made us scared of interacting with other people, scared to leave our house. And the World Health Organization has suggested that since the pandemic, there's a 25% global increase in anxiety and depression. Now, that's incredible statistics. So we know that that's one of the impacts. We also have economic and societal pressures. So there's a lot of instability in our economy at the moment. There's job insecurity, there's a cost of living crisis, there's societal issues of us feeling like we've got to measure up. Keeping up with the Joneses has never been more difficult. And this is causing a lot of pressure on people to feel that they've got to show up, they've got to perform, they've got to be something that perhaps they don't naturally feel inside. We've also got biological and lifestyle factors. We are getting more and more used to living in chronic stress. We know that chronic stress disrupts our autonomic nervous system, and especially our parasympathetic nervous system, which plays a crucial role in our ability to rest and recover. And our life that we're living right now means that many of us feel stressed more than we feel relaxed. Therefore, we're on edge. We're waiting for the next thing. We also have research out there that suggests that our diet has changed, our lack of movement has changed. You know, we're not kind of walking places as much as we were, we're not getting outside as much as we were. All of these things are said to have an impact. As I've already touched upon, there's a significant increase in younger adults and adolescents struggling with all sorts of mental health challenges. We know that social media absolutely has impacted that. The pandemic has impacted that. Global issues are impacting that. Our children are exposed to things that, I don't know, if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you definitely were never exposed to. And so we know that that's starting to impact our younger generation. And we also live in a world where it might seem like a good thing, but for our brains, it's not a good thing that we're exposed to all of the information that we are. Our brains were never designed to have access to all of the information in the world, to see wars and atrocities and horrors going on all around the world. Now, if we think about even 50 years ago, we may have read bits of that in the newspaper, but the chances are you'd have read it in the newspaper in the morning and carried on with your day, maybe saw something on the news in the evening. Now, most people are checking their phone an average of every 9 minutes. And now when we're checking our phone, we're accessing that, seeing horrific images, seeing the horror of the world. And that changes our perception about what kind of world we live in. Our perception that this is potentially a very dangerous world, a very cruel world, a very harsh world, a world where we've got to be on edge and got to be scared. And so all of that is absolutely impacting the current rise in anxiety. And so I guess one of the overriding things I want you to take away from this little workshop is you're not on your own. There absolutely is no way that if you know 5 people, then I promise you at least one of those, probably more, are dealing with anxiety as well. So there's no way you're on your own with this. So our experience with anxiety, as I touched on in the beginning, is quite extensive. It's definitely been a personal passion project for me. I've written books on anxiety, and I've done quite a bit of research into anxiety. And it's something that I feel we need to do more about. And over the years, I have tried all different approaches. Those of you who've known me for quite a while will know that I'm qualified in lots of different therapies. And it was only really, it was just before Tom came on board that I started to touch more into what we would call psychosomatic therapies. So therapies that involve more working with the body to change how the brain feels. So things like havening, EFT, breath work, all of those started to change how I thought about anxiety. And one of the things that Tom and I boldly kind of state today, which is pretty bold when you run a therapy organization, is we don't think therapy is enough when you're dealing with anxiety. Absolutely, when someone has anxiety, there may well be things they need to talk through. There may be trauma, there may be grief, there may be life changes that they need to talk through. But we don't think talking is enough, and we actually don't think talking is the best course of action for therapy. And as I say, it's a pretty bold claim as a therapy company. What we firmly believe and are becoming more and more passionate about every single day is that in order to really reduce your experience of anxiety, you're much better off getting into your body than into your head. Analyzing what you're thinking often creates more anxiety. Trying to change how you think, trying to think good thoughts. I mean, if any of you have worked with us, you know that we're not that kind of therapist, think happy thoughts anyway. But that kind of approach can often cause us to feel like we're not good enough, we're not achieving enough, and we're not able to overcome the anxiety, therefore making it worse. And so all of this work really has led to us building more and more somatic tools that we've used with clients. And at the start of this year, that kind of passion project accumulated, and we created something that we call the ARC protocol. And the ARC protocol is a tool that we have created that is really easy to teach to anyone. Hence, we're going to teach you one step of it today anyway. And we know that when people do this ARC protocol frequently, then their experience of anxiety massively goes down. And the reason we know that is because we've done quite an extensive pilot study, which is why it's taken us a good few months to get this out, to make sure that this is all very science-backed. So the ARC process is a science-backed method to interrupt anxiety in the moment it's happening, rewire your nervous system for long-term calm. So it has two key benefits: stops anxiety in its tracks, and also helps you to teach your brain how it could respond differently in the future. So it starts to break up that cycle of anxiety, literally interrupting it. ARC stands for the 3 steps that are within that protocol, which is awareness, reframe, and calm. And that 3-step process is designed to help interrupt your anxiety spirals as they happen. And the step I'm going to teach you tonight is the one that really does that. Helps you to calm your nervous system. It helps you to reframe how your brain is interpreting anxiety signals. And it helps you to build emotional resilience over time. So we're really excited about it. The reason it works is because it is rooted in science, especially neuroscience, something that, again, I am super passionate about. If we understand why our brain is doing something, then it's so much easier to work with it and do things differently. There are several theories within the ARC protocol, but some of the key ones are things like polyvagal theory, which is about really stimulating one of the key nerves we have in the body that is associated with anxiety, called the vagus nerve. Nothing to do with Las Vegas, unfortunately. Neuroplasticity, which is accepting the science that says that our brain has the ability to change. Our brain is plastic in terms of the real sense of the word, not the hard sort of 1960s product that we all use that's terrible for the environment. Plastic is in it's malleable, it's pliable. Your brain can change. Somatic psychology, which is something I was talking about earlier, our ability to change what's happening in our body, to change what's happening in our brain. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, an ability to start to interrupt your cognitive processes, the way your brain is thinking, to be able to start to choose a better mindset that's more suitable for you and choose different thoughts. And psychosensory techniques. So far in all of the research we've done on this, it is suitable for anyone. We've had people who are doing this of every single age. We've had people doing this who have been on medication for anxiety all their life. We've had people who have developed perimenopause and menopausal anxiety. I feel you if you're suffering with that. And it's really helped those as well. And even though we're kind of using it for anxiety, it also helps people, whether it's chronic stress, overthinking, negative thought loops, overwhelm. It's essentially a practical tool that can help anyone. So I'm going to hand over to Tom, who was really leading the pilot study, so he can explain it to you and explain how and why it works. So Tom.
Of course, thank you. So earlier this year, we wanted to prove to ourselves more than anyone else that this protocol that we created really was viable, and it worked. And the feedback that we had was incredible. There were 100% of the people who completed the ARC protocol saw an increased feeling of calmness after they did it. Instantly, they felt calmer. 72% of people experienced reduced general anxiety. Now, this was also similar to for people's mood and their stress levels as well. The most effective time of the day to practice, according to everyone that that we put through this trial was in the morning, and the participants felt that it set them up for the day, and it was just that we found it was the best time to practice. Lianne said that we are going to be going through step one, which is great because everybody that went through the trial loved the first step. It was found to be the most effective in acting quickly when we are in that sort of high arousal state, feeling anxious or feeling stressed. But everyone that did the whole protocol for all the way through step 3 found that combining all the steps was just as important. But step 1 came out as a favorite. The people that found the most improvement overall were the people that practiced it every day. We ran this trial over a 10-day period where people had to complete the online course, and then it was down to daily practice. Now, this is where we were a little bit worried that people wouldn't do the practice, but we kept in touch and we spoke to people as they went along, and the feedback was incredible. And the ones that did that daily practice, that practiced it at least once a day, every one of those people saw incredible results. And it changed how they felt and how they were able to operate in the world. But I could tell you about all the stats and all the feedback and results that we had, but it's time to hear from the people that it made a difference for. So on the next slide, we're going to hear from Lucy. And there we go.
The ARC protocol made such a difference to me because when I was in my anxious states, moving my eyelids left to right and up, it completely snapped me out of my train of thought. My anxious thinking and my shaking instantly subsided, and planting my feet flat on the floor made such an impact. And I realised that my panic attacks lasted so much less time than they usually did, and I just felt overall a sense of calm. So I cannot thank Lianne and Tom enough for all their amazing work. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Dean because his experience was different as well. So I'm going to let Lianne play.
My name is Dean, and the ARC protocol has really helped me into controlling my anxiety levels and allows me to attend events and to enjoy things that previously I would have avoided because I know my anxiety levels would have been simply too high. So here I am in London, used the ARC protocol today, made sure that I was in a calm and safe environment in order to navigate around London, and I'm going off to enjoy the show. Big thanks to the protocol, and using that has really helped improving my life on a day-to-day basis.
So the full program that we've created, we've created an online program that sits on our website, and it contains so much information. We wouldn't be able to cover everything in today's session. So here's just a few things that are included. It's how to use the program, what is a protocol, the introduction to ARC, step 1, 2, affirmations, and step 3. What is a safe space, and how to use ARC in everyday situations, whether that's an emergency or if it's just you're preparing for a situation that you normally would be anxious for. And one of the feedbacks that we had was that it helped an incredible amount when going to sleep as well. It's a really busy time for thoughts, that moment that the head hits the pillow. So using this protocol then helped people get off to sleep. It's full of downloads, resources, guides, and visual reminders. We've even got phone and tablet reminders. You can't quite see that. There we go. It's just an example, because we know that when you do sessions like this, then it's too easy to forget everything. So it's great to have a little reminder as you go about your day. We've also got further support from us And we have a dedicated ARC program community discussion group that's on our website as well. So everybody that joins onto the program will have access to that as well. They can ask questions from other people that have found it useful, and also everybody that comes will get a free ebook written by Lianne, Interrupting Anxiety. So for everybody that has come along today, we do have a special offer for the first month to celebrate ARC protocol. We want to give everybody a great discount. So normally it's about £72, but everybody can have full access to everything I've just mentioned and all the bonus stuff for just £49. I know it's a lot of information to take in right now, so we will send everything in the follow-up email, and we will give you instructions on how to sign up as well. But if you're already ready, then what you can do is head to beamtherapy.co.uk/online courses. The link is on the next slide. And then you can join the ARC protocol, and you follow the steps and you enter the code ARC launch 2025, all in caps, and you'll be able to access this course on any device, so on your phone, tablet, desktop. But again, I'll send you all the details for this as well. And I'm going to hand back over to Lianne, because I think that we skipped the space where we were going to do the demo, but this is really important part of the session as well. So I'm going to hand back over to Lianne to wrap up the session.
Thank you, Tom. So as I mentioned, the ARC protocol is split into awareness, reframe, and calm. So there's 3 different exercises for each of those. And awareness is all about recognizing that you're starting to feel anxious, recognizing that build-up. And it's a tool to bring that down. So as you're sat there right now, hopefully you will feel fairly relaxed on a Sunday evening, but let's just see, as you're sat there right now, just in your head, I want you to score the anxiety that you have out of 10. It could be 2, it could be 10, like just whatever it is absolutely fine. You don't have to share it, but I just want you to score that in your head. And then we're going to go through the ARC process, which is also known as the tri-point interrupt. So there's quite a lot of psychosomatic and neuroscience in here as to why it works. And I can explain it as we go through. So I'm going to begin by explaining the steps, and then we'll just get a chance to do them all together. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to make sure your feet are flat on the floor. If any of you have ever worked with me with anxiety, I will have definitely told you this. So an anxious person very rarely has 2 feet flat on the floor. It's amazing, isn't it? We don't recognize that, but we very rarely do. And even though we're not aware of it, our brain is constantly scanning our body to check how our body feels in any environment. And if our feet are not flat on the floor, what our brain hears is, I'm getting ready to run, I don't feel safe, I'm getting ready to get out of here. And so just having, even if you're watching TV, just having your feet sort of up on its tiptoes or one foot tucked up behind you is telling your brain that you don't feel entirely safe. So anytime you feel anxious, my most simple piece of advice is get both feet flat on the floor as much as you can. If you can kick off your shoes, all the better. Obviously, if you're on a bus, probably don't do that, but get both feet flat on the floor. And when I say flat, I mean flat. So what I want you to do as you're sat there right now, I want you to imagine that you're about to stand up. So you're kind of pushing into your feet, where you feel the heels connected, you feel the balls of the feet connect, you feel the toes connect. And then you can sit backwards, but keep that connection in your feet. Okay, another thing I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is to place one hand on your forehead. Have you ever noticed when you have a bad stomach, when you have a bad head, when anything actually hurts, what we instinctively do is we hold it. And when we hold it, what we do is we draw our body and our brain's awareness to that area. When we place our hand on the front of our head, this is actually where the prefrontal cortex sits. And the prefrontal cortex is your calm, rational thinking brain. So it just starts to bring awareness to your calm brain, not your anxious brain. Then I'm going to ask you to place the other hand on your heart. Now, there is beautiful research from the Heart Mind Institute on how powerful it is to get what's called heart-brain coherence. Our hearts and our brain both give out electrical signals. When we're in complete harmony, they are synchronized. They go out in a really lovely pattern. If we are overthinking, if we're over emotional, if we're over upset, they become almost disconnected. They're incoherent. Just placing your hand on your heart, and quite often you will find me sat somewhere with my hand like this, just as a default. Just placing your hand on your heart starts to slow everything down and calm your brain. It brings an awareness into that heart. The next, and this is why I'm teaching you all of these before I start doing it, because it's really hard for you to understand me when I do this bit. So the next is I'm going to ask you to place your tongue to the roof of your mouth. So it doesn't have to be fully locked, but the tip of your tongue just behind the teeth at the roof of your mouth. That kind of closes a circuit. That starts to trigger our parasympathetic nervous response, that rest and relax response that we want to be flooded within the body. And then I'm going to ask you, without moving your head, to move your eyes from left to right 5 times, but keeping your head perfectly still. And the last bit is I'm going to ask you again, without moving your head, to look up as high as you can so you create a real strain on your eyes for 5 seconds. So if you're ready, let's do this together. So feet flat on the floor, feel them fully connected. One hand's on the forehead, doesn't matter which one. One hand's on the heart. I always like to just take a little breath here when I do this bit. So it's a nice... Now just make sure your tongue is pressed to the roof of your mouth, just behind your teeth. And keep it there and keep your head still as we move the eyes to the left, eyes to the right, eyes to the left, eyes to the right, eyes to the left, eyes to the right, eyes to the left, eyes to the right. One more, eyes to the left, eyes to the right. And then look up as high as you can, keeping your head perfectly still. Strain your eyes so you look up very high. Take a nice deep breath here. Once you've exhaled, you can drop your hands. And then I just want you to go back and notice if your anxiety score has changed. So I asked you to score it before we started. How are you feeling right now? Has it gone down? Does it feel any different? Thank you. Feel good? Thank you. Amazing. So that is step 1 of the ARC protocol. Like, that's, take it, use it. You can't overuse it. The great thing about these sorts of things is you can't overdose on it. You can't use it too much. Now, Tom mentioned that within the full course, then there's emergency ARC protocols and sleep protocols. They're a variation on this because you don't want to be in the middle of Starbucks having to do all this stuff, right? So it's not, there are variations that we've created to make sure you can do them in public where you won't need to feel really self-conscious and other people won't need to know that you're doing them. So as I mentioned at the beginning, because this is being recorded, I'm going to start to wrap up in a moment in readiness for any questions, any comments, any anxiety question. If you're struggling with something, if you want to know my favorite tool, if you want to know how to overcome an anxiety attack or a panic attack, the difference between either of them, then I am happy to be here and answer any of those questions. As Tom said, the actual protocol, if you want the full thing, it is on our website live right now. You can access it, go into beamtherapy.co.uk/online courses. And then it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you get lost on technology, please don't ask me, ask Tom. Hopefully that's easier. Tom, I'm going to ask if you will to please stop recording.